Hi, and welcome to Denver Startup Week. I have a couple of things that I am required by law to tell you. Thank you for joining us at the 11th Annual Denver Startup Week. Thank you to our title sponsors, Amazon, Capital One Cafe, Dell for Startups, and Downtown Denver Partnership. This session is part of the Developer Track, sponsored by Quizlet, one of 8 programming tracks aimed at supporting the entire entrepreneurial team. Hold on, Brad. Okay. By attending this session, you are agreeing to follow our code of conduct, as well as being photographed or recorded on video. Be sure to share your experience at this session online using hashtags DenStartupWeek and Handshake. These are our lovely sponsors, once again, in case you needed the repetition. Now, welcome to our talk, Fizzle&Flop, how to recover a good idea that fell flat. We're here to talk about what happens when you develop an awesome feature that ultimately just doesn't live up to your expectations. We'll discuss what we hope to accomplish, where it didn't meet our expectations, what we're doing next, and how you can apply these lessons to your features too. I'm Katie White, pronouns she, her, software engineer and tech lead of the Advocate Squad at Handshake. I'd like to introduce my fellow speakers. We have Austin Biggs, front-end engineer extraordinaire, my mentor, and work bestie, and the best onboarding buddy anybody could have had.
Hi, I'm Austin Biggs. My pronouns are he, him. I have been at Handshake for over 3.5 years now, and I am a senior software engineer and the tech lead for our front-end platform team.
And now Gabe Forgy, our prime product manager, top 1% in the world for Rocket League, and famed throughout Handshake for his continuous efforts to educate all of us on space facts and trivia. Also, fun fact, remember that the James Webb Telescope was built entirely in JavaScript. On to you, Gabe.
Thanks, Katie. Hi, everybody. My name's Gabe. Also been with Handshake for about 3 years, product manager for our video product as well as our talent experience product that we're going to talk about today.
Thank you, Gabe. Austin, on to you. Sorry. Oh, no, it's Gabe. Sorry. Go ahead, Gabe.
Okay, awesome. So for those that don't know, Handshake is a 700-person strong tech company. We're headquartered in San Francisco. We've got offices here in Denver, as well as New York and in London. We're the #1 place to launch a career with no connections, experience, or luck required. The Handshake community includes over 10 million students and young alumni around the world from over 1,400 educational institutions. And then the platform connects up-and-coming talent with 650,000 plus employers. That includes all of the Fortune 500. And if you're inspired by our mission and looking to make an impact in your next role, our team is growing. We've got a QR code up here you're welcome to take a picture of. We've also got some cards over on the table outside, etc.
And stickers.
And stickers, yes.
Excuse me, test. All right. Okay, so let's talk about Candidate Hub. So at Handshake, we needed a modern search experience that really took the recruiting process from being just looking at search results to actual matches, right? And so we needed 2 things in order to achieve this. We needed a flexible search service so that engineers like myself and Katie could actually build a product that we wanted to iterate on, and we could actually bring product visions like what Gabe and previous PMs have actually come up with. So what was the goal? Our goal really was to drive more personalized search results for employers. So instead of just search results actually matching on different criteria based off of either whether you're a candidate who's matched to a job or whether you've actually interacted with said employer, either following or you've attended a career fair they have presented at, etc., etc. So let's talk about the product vision. So in order to actually bring this to life, there's quite a bit of front-end development that went into this. So first and foremost, we needed to create a lot of front-end components. So everything from a redesigned table, a bulk actions API, reimagining how search filters work, a results carousel, and even a refresh student profile. Here you'll see an example of said profile. So the search system we already had, the tooling we already had, wasn't going to be enough to meet our needs. So what we needed to do was continue to iterate on that and look for new solutions. So what better language to use than GraphQL for querying, right? We're trying to build a search service, a search experience, and one of the best benefits of GraphQL is the front end can dictate what the back end returns. And so a few other things that made GraphQL really appealing was that it's strongly typed, the community is very lively, the tooling is next level. Granted, a lot of that comes from the fact that GraphQL is strongly typed. Additionally, we needed a client so that the front end could connect to our back-end GraphQL endpoint. So we used Apollo clients. A few reasons for that. There's built-in state management. We can fine-tune how objects are cached, how queries and mutations work. And we also have additional nice-to-haves, right? So one of those things is reactive variables, which actually augment the way that reactivity pattern work. So here is a quick little GIF, #TeamGIF, of how performant and how snappy this UI looks and feels. A large part of that is due to Apollo clients and the caching I just mentioned. This is another GIF, just kind of demonstrating the new student profile, the new carousel, and a prime feature of this for employers, a good selling point rather, is that you could go through all of your matches, not search results, remember that. And actually not lose your place. You could go through pages and pages of candidates and actually message them directly. You could bulk message them directly, invite them to apply to your job, event, etc. So we've talked a bit about the tech. Let's hear more about the product.
Awesome. So we started that with job matches, and that was basically that you could find a list of matches for a specific job that you posted in Handshake based on like the criteria of how those people would qualify for the job. But we wanted to go a step further than that to the Your Candidates page. That was the idea that we take the candidates and we match them to an employer rather than just the job. And so then the matches to the employer are going to be based on things like has the candidate applied to a job in the past? Have they followed the employer on Handshake? RSVP'd or checked into an event or fair. You can also do like include and exclude, so you could tell sort of a story with your query that was really appealing to our recruiter base. Unfortunately, sometimes users don't behave how you expect. You guys might remember this TikTok that went around that seemed like a good example of the experience that we had. So we rolled this feature out. Everybody said, this is great, this is exactly what we would like to do in your product. Then they would come in and they would just view profiles instead of like sending the messages, which was the intended outcome. So they would come in, they would like browse, it was kind of like the dirty word that we came up with. They're not doing the proper, quote unquote proper outcome. They would go to another feature to send messages rather than staying in ours. So this wasn't necessarily bad. We weren't getting negative feedback. Nobody like disliked the product. They kept telling us it was great, just the sessions that they did have didn't result in messaging. So anybody that's developed on a live enterprise product knows if you set goals for a launch and they're not met, then that can create sort of an interesting challenge. So some of the data here is what I pulled about a year ago for our annual planning that showed like really low outcome results. You can see like a lot of our potential users have at least one session here, but only 6.5% or so of those sessions were resulting in the intended outcome. One of the benefits here, though, that we got from that data was that this chart, sort of the messages per session correlation, when you have more sessions, you are more likely to send more messages. And so that was like a good sort of pro coming out of our data. So this showed that repeat visitors were more and more likely to send messages. So the outcomes of these messages, by the way, were always really good. You had like employers were sending messages, a lot of the students were responding to those messages, they were following the sort of call to action inside that message. That's one reason why we kept investing in this product. So when people used it, it worked out really well for them. We had a good idea, it just fell flat, and we needed to figure out why. So when we wanted to find a North Star, basically was kind of the direction that we wanted to take the product, like set something that's off in the distance that we can point towards. So we started with UX research, so that's the sort of the output of that UX research is here on the left. We interviewed a lot of users. That some people were like power users in the product, some people were people who had never tried the feature. We came up with a result set, basically some questions that we should be asking ourselves, because we found that sort of sometimes the best answers are hidden behind the questions that you don't know to ask until you start talking to people that are using or not using your feature. So some of those results were around like an identity confusion. People were coming into this product. They were using it, but they weren't really sure what they were supposed to be doing here. Some other things like there's a few different ways that you can message in our platform. They didn't know, am I supposed to do like one-to-one messages here, or should I be selecting multiple people and sending multiple messages? Then the output sort of that UX research was a week-long design sprint. That was based on the idea of an 11-star experience. So you may be familiar with that. It's something that Airbnb came up with originally. The idea is you start with like a 5-star experience, and so that's for your Airbnb, for example. It's everything was clean. There weren't like bed bugs in the bed. I don't have any complaints. That's 5 stars. Best you can do. So Airbnb wants to take, like what is better than 5 stars? What's maybe a 7-star experience? So that's how they came up with their experiences product. If you've used that, it's like I signed up for the Airbnb, and then I was able to get reservations to the best restaurant in the city. That's like a 7-star experience. So take that a step further and go up to like 11 stars. What's the most ridiculous, fun thing that could happen that would warrant like more than twice as many stars as the sort of win condition for that 5-star experience? So we did this with our team. We came up with, this is one of the outputs. This was kind of like the fun one that we got some good illustrations out of. We brought together like customer-facing people, developers, designers, and went through this whole exercise. And so the idea of like the 11-star experience here is on the second pane. Like you open Handshake, there's one button, it says recruit, you click that, take the rest of the day off. Obviously that's not how it's actually going to work, but if we start there, it's like users want to focus less on the sort of work of finding people, sending messages. They want to focus more on getting to know those people, nurturing a relationship with them. And the problem was that they didn't have time to do that. I'll hand off to Katie.
All right. Whoa, sorry, again. One day I will get used to this. Work continued on our feature throughout the past year and actually continues today. We made a lot of improvements, big and small, all grounded in the learnings we took out of UXR and the design sprint. Feature additions are focused on making the identity of the page more clear, making value easier to attain on your first visit, and generally making it more likely that a user would swipe right or message a student. Future work is going to go even further in setting a clear identity. I am currently leading that right now and excited to share more. Quick recap first though. Our users love this feature. We got fantastic feedback on it, but they weren't using it how we expected them to use it. Ignore that. I know this is not a common experience in the industry, so bear with me if all of your features are used exactly how you expect them to be, and just kind of sit through this next little bit. You can zone out. So we made some assumptions at the beginning of development for this feature that didn't end up playing out how we expected. We supported the same feature on 2 pages. It was supposed to simplify things, but due to increasingly divergent purposes in the 2 pages, it's now actually causing a lot of problems. We have been clashing for the past 6 months with another team, and we've recently added a 3rd team into our clashes, which has been very exciting. Heads up to Christine. But there's also a joke to be made here about ownership and marking of territory, but I'm not going to do that. So our state management systems were great separately, but together they ended up being just a little too complex. We are currently supporting an in-between state that is confusing for everyone and increases dev time exponentially. It also increases the time that our team spends on consulting with proposed work and actual work for other teams. So ultimately, in addition to the user improvements that we've already mentioned, we needed this feature to be more lightweight, more flexible, and the components to be more composable. So what are we iterating on, and what are we improving? We looked at what our users were actually using and what we thought had value that they weren't using as much. Yay, fancy. We also want to make this feature faster and easier to develop in and increase developer satisfaction while we're at it. So in order to do that, we need to decrease our code complexity. We need to enable multi-team ownership. We need to make it so that other people can develop in these areas without worrying that they're going to take down our entire feature. Oh no, there we go. We also need to remediate the tech debt of our dual state management system. And lastly, we need to make it really pretty. There we go. So you can see some mock-ups of our work there. So we also know the filtering experience was helpful for our users, but there were areas that we could definitely improve, including UI changes to make filtering more intuitive and easier to use. We wanted a user to be able to come in and have a familiar filtering experience comparable to other applications that they are currently using, so the time to learn for our application is a lot lower. We also, again, need to reduce the code-based complexity by converting fully to GraphQL and to make our components more reusable, more composable to allow multi-team ownership, we need to make a component library. Lastly, we need to implement state machines and a filtering library so that filters can be added really quickly and reduce development time to increase value for our users. So, to recap, if your feature isn't fantastically successful, that doesn't mean it's not complete failure. There are always lessons to be learned, and iteration is the name of the game. We can't always get it right the first time, but if you do, please stay by after the talk and talk to me, because I want to know how you did that. So the next time one of your features fizzles or flops, take a step back, do some research, do it again, solidify the tech you're using early and stick with it, even if making it easier and faster to develop later means more work up front. This is a really good time to practice your boundary setting. So build your feature back, even better than it was before. Oh, but wait, there's more. Gabe, did you have some final words you wanted to say?
Yeah, so one more slide here. We've got some fresh numbers based on that earlier slide, and these are pretty sweet. So this is basically just the last year of work of everything that we've described, culminating in decent increase in users with at least one session, promising for sure, and then what they're actually doing in those sessions is incredible. So we're getting over 500% increase based on last year's numbers in the number of sessions or the percentage of sessions that resulted in messages sent. That was like a huge goal checked off, and then over 3,000% increase in message volume. So like the people that are coming to the page are more likely to send messages and more likely to send more messages, which was really the primary thing we were originally looking for. Everything is working. So the TLDR here is all the work that we've put in is paying off. This feature is impacting the future of many early talent job seekers, and we're really excited to keep iterating. So we're glad we didn't give up. The return on investment for our determination and research and development is extremely high. Thank you.
There we go. We would like to open it up to any questions or comments or concerns or idea sharing if you get it right the first time. If you would like to raise your hand, we will give you a microphone so that the video picks it up.
Test. Hello. I noticed on one of your slides there that you touched upon part of the iterative process of continually to improve your workflows and processes was improved terminology. I was wondering if you could touch a little bit more on that, because I know from our experience in our workplace, like the importance of a common domain language of terminology, knowing when something's a synonym versus something entirely different. Like, are there use cases for you guys that you feel are super important to always stress, not only internally, but to users themselves?
Thanks for the question. So the terminology things that we had here a lot of times were with it's like recruiter users, people that are looking to recruit people for a job, don't always know the right way to refer to those people. And so we had Candidate Hub here was the name of our feature, or like your candidates. And some people think of candidates as people who have applied to a job already, and it's like the post-application word for them. But this feature was looking for people who had not yet applied to a job that could be candidates for that job. And so in our new version of the feature, something that we kind of cut from the slides was we're calling it talent list, which is a more sort of generic term that better encompasses the different groups of people that could show up as results to your queries here.
Nice, thank you.
Thanks for being the runner. There we go. Thanks for being the runner. Something that I think a lot of people, I struggle with is when people are like, cool, fail and, learn to set boundaries. So I know they're a thing. They're this invisible thing that people do. Could you give us some examples of what y'all have done for work-life balance, but in the team too, not just that kind of stuff? Thank you.
I swear these work differently. I can speak to how I do it. I have 2 kids. I have a 7-year-old and I have a 10-month-old, so I have a hard boundary because my daughter is attached to me physically later on in the evening. However, I do want to say that it's something we're always working on. Our team is a team of perfectionists, which sounds like it would be good, but it's not. We work really hard to prevent burnout. One of the things that we have actually implemented is a bi-weekly game time where we all take half an hour and we play Among Us together on Zoom or Guarded Phone, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Austin, do you want to speak to any boundaries that you guys set on platform?
It can be something personal too that you teach the team or.
Austin has no boundaries. That's what we're learning.
It's up. Okay. That's a good question. My boyfriend's sitting in the audience, and I don't know if I'm the best person to ask this question because last night we were watching. What were we watching? Game of Thrones, and I was sitting there with my laptop doing a spike. So don't be me. Set aside separate time. Honestly, something that used to work really well for me that we just haven't been doing is having that kind of ceremony at the end of your workday. Whether it's taking your dog on a walk, going on a walk across around the block, whether it's listening to music, playing a game, reading a book, listening to an audiobook, etc., etc. Just having that way to really close off your day, turn off your productivity apps, and kind of switch gears.
So I would say one more thing on this is just that this comes up in pretty much every single sprint retro that we do, which is every 2 weeks. There's always something on the stop or what's holding us back section that's just feeling burnt out, don't have enough energy, etc. It's just a constant conversation and a constant thing that I think everybody's working on as a team, especially in this industry. It's easy to feel like you need to keep working and keep pushing for something, but on the whole, over time, over long periods of time, people aren't able to do that, and so it's really important to step back and your 6-month output being consistent is more important than your 1-month output being incredible. And that's something that we just always are trying to reinforce for ourselves and for our team.
I will just add this one last thing. There we go. Okay, I will project. Gabe is a really wonderful PM, and he believes in timelines, not deadlines. And that has been instrumental with our team to take a pause when we need to. I believe you had a question. We used the other one because.
Well, one question I had was on the design sprint. Is that something that the team does on a regular basis, sort of generatively, or was that something that was more ad hoc because you encountered this unexpected results? And sort of a second part, or not a second part, but a different question, how was leadership supportive in kind of allowing for that mistake or the flop, as we described it, in seeing those results and seeing it different?
Yeah. So as for the design sprint, I think this was our first design sprint that we had done at Handshake, or if it wasn't our first, it was our first that followed this specific format. And the results from it were obviously very good. And so since then, we've had multiple design sprints that it's sort of become more of a popular thing in the company. As far as leadership buy-in, I think the thing that I've learned, and this is something that I've learned a lot through this specific project, it's something that I didn't do well earlier this year and have gotten feedback on and constantly improving, is to just constantly get that buy-in, go back to leaders and here's a quick update, you don't have to read very much, just here's where we're at, here's where I'm thinking, and make sure that they're in, because it's really easy a lot of times in meetings with leaders that they have so much going on that they're, if you're getting sort of non-specific, they're not saying that there's this bad thing with it, or don't continue. It's easy to feel like you should just keep going, and so the important thing is to make sure that you're, you as the sort of individual contributor are taking the time to actually actively get that sort of buy-in and thumbs up each time you feel like you need it.
Hey. So my question is a little bit more philosophical, so I don't know if I understood the problem correctly, but help me get there. So what made you kind of reiterate the solution that you had as opposed to pivoting to how your users were using it? So if I understood correctly, why not redefine the one message experience, the one connection experience, as opposed to what made you confident that you had it right and you just needed to show them that you had it right?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it was about user feedback. It was we kept talking to people who, we would sell on this feature. We would have our sales teams tell us, I explained how this thing works, and that was one of the few things that got them to pick us over a competitor. We would hear all the time that it was a good idea, it was going to be really helpful, and it was the numbers that we showed were, it would depend on the company too. So the companies that we could actually get, we have a really hands-on customer success team for a certain tier of employer, for example, and for those customers that were using it, they were the ones that were kind of driving most of the results. And so we were getting validation on a sort of small grain size that it was working for the people that used it. And so there was a general agreement, I guess, between leadership and us that we just needed to figure out how to get everybody else in there and getting the same results that the bigger employers were getting.
I'll add too, from a developer perspective, we believed in this feature. This feature was our baby, and when we started it, we truly believed that it added value. We believed that it allowed employers to see students who were more likely to respond to them in a way that was more democratic, in a way that was allowing for more diverse results. We didn't want to give that up. We just got lucky that Gabe was able to frame that in a product way for us. And we knew that there was a lot of value in the feature, especially there was a lot of value in the technology we used. So we wanted to further refine and iterate on that too. Anyone else? Awesome. Well, thank you all for coming. Special thanks to everyone listed here. You all were amazing. Also special thanks to everyone that helped from ideation to development to iteration. Thanks all.